Tennessee yesterday said that they were going to allow seniors to come back for this added year of eligibility. And I think one of the first questions I saw whenever somebody had posted it was, well, what does that mean for their academics? Do they still have to go to school? Do they still have to go to school?
Yeah, the short answer to that is yes. And to be honest, this isn't unfamiliar to us. We have a lot of student athletes who complete the traditional four-year degree with eligibility still on the clock. So they have to have these creative options. So the options already exist within the current NCAA structure. So a student athlete who completes the traditional four-year degree and still has eligibility left has the opportunity to do one of really like three or four things. So they have the opportunity to either pursue a second bachelor's degree. They have the opportunity to pursue a non-degree seeking graduate program. So if they're not really sure which specific program they want to go into, they can still dabble in a couple of different areas without committing to a specific program. They have the opportunity to pursue a specific master's program as well if they know exactly what they want to go into. And then they have a kind of an abbreviated master's program, which comes by way of a degree, a graduate degree certificate that they can complete as well. So in all of those scenarios, the student has to be enrolled full-time. So that's really the trigger there, is that they have to be a full-time student. They have to be pursuing something beyond their original four-year degree. But what that looks like, there's several options.
And you mentioned they have to be a full-time student. How many credits would that be for the fall semester? And then I know there is a waiver that's available to student athletes for that spring semester as well when they're in their season.
Yeah, it looks very different. Full-time enrollment in a very general sense is 12 credit hours for an undergraduate, 9 credit hours for a graduate student. There are some exemptions there. If you're enrolled in everything you need to graduate in your final term, you have the ability to only enroll in those credit hours. So if a senior student athlete is in their last term of enrollment and they have 6 hours to graduate, they can enroll in just those 6 hours to complete their degree, and that's by way of a waiver. But as soon as we can certify that they're enrolled in everything that they need to graduate, it's going to be approved.
Do you feel like the added year of eligibility, from your perspective and making sure that students are academically eligible as well, does it feel more maybe like a medical red shirt for a senior who may have suffered an injury that final season and they get an extra year of eligibility, or is it more like a grad transfer, or is it kind of a combination of the two?
I think it's a combination of the two. I think one thing that we do kind of philosophically is we're always going to develop a graduation plan on day one. So there are a lot of things that are outside of a student's control: an injury, just a regular red shirt, an academic red shirt. There could be a variety of things a student transfers in that may impact the time they have left on the clock, so to speak. We're always going to put them on the fastest path to graduation. That's one thing that we can control. It's one thing the student athlete can control. And it's one thing that can't really be manipulated on the back end. If you have your degree, you have your degree. So if we find out early on in the process that the student who is going to be here for 4 years is now going to be here for 5 years or 6 years due to a series of red shirts, they're going to stay on the same academic plan. We kind of joke around all the time, but it's very serious. It's not about a matter of if you're going to graduate, it's when you're going to graduate, how many degrees are you going to have whenever you exhaust your eligibility.
Have you had students already come to you and with certainty say, hey, we want to come back for this year? And what is maybe one of the top options that students are looking at pursuing with this added year of eligibility?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. Students are really in tune with what's going on nationally. They're paying attention. I'm sure they're talking to their parents, their coaches, support staff like me to learn about their options. So we've had a lot of students come in and discuss some of those things. It's been great because a lot of those conversations started even before this pandemic. What's next for you? We have a very robust career and professional development kind of post-grad program. So we have those conversations all 4 years. And so once we get to that, we say, all right, now we might have an opportunity to pivot. You know, you may have been pursuing a professional career. You may have been going to grad school in another light. Now you have the opportunity to compete and go to grad school. What are your options now? And we kind of walk through those things with the student athletes. So there, a lot of them have come to us and had those questions. But the good thing is this isn't the first time we're having those conversations with them. We've been planning it out for several years.
How many seniors do you have in spring sports this year, and how many have come to the athletic department and therefore the academic side of things and said, hey, we want to come back for this added year of eligibility?
That's a tough question to answer because some of that's still a moving target. This is all new to a lot of, to both to the coaches, to the administrators, and to the student athletes. Generally, we have 25 to 30 seniors. It remains to be seen how many of them are committed to coming back because they have already had these post-grad plans and those different things. So conversations are being had with all of those students right now, but all are welcome back. The NCAA structure allowed everyone to come back. What that looks like from a funding perspective when they come back is up to the student institution.
Do you have a specific date in mind that you guys have worked out with the athletic department as to when you would like a student to kind of make that decision as to whether or not they're going to return to school or not?
Yeah, there's not been a hard and fast date set. We're trying to be very sensitive to the fact that we're in the middle of a global pandemic and that everyone's learning things for the very first time. So I think it's a continuation of conversation. Obviously, in the back of our mind, we're mindful of if that student has already graduated, what their post-grad options are, and maybe a little bit of a moving target in terms of application deadlines for graduate programs. So it's really just a combination of case by case, working individually with that student, what their post-grad aspirations are, and then trying to develop a plan that works perfectly for that individual student.